أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. So we reached session number 55. In this session, we're going to be covering lesson number 15 and lesson number 16. Just a quick note. After I'm going to repeat myself, and it's on the recording as well. That after this chapter, the book jumps to lesson number 20. So chapter 17, chapter 18, and chapter 19. These are all talking about a concept called i'lal. Okay, and I'll be creating the content until it gets reconnected with chapter number 20, which continues talking about i'lal, a specific type called ajwaf. Okay, so after this session, inshallah, the if you noticed how I copy explicit examples and charts from the book. Well, most probably the next slide isn't going to be an explicit copy from the book because the book, at least the PDF version that we have right now, doesn't have that. If any of you guys have the text version and you're able to share with me pictures of the next few chapters, I'd appreciate that. If you're not, then I'm going to create it on my end. So I had already pulled aside different books and different depth in which I wanted to cover that prior to us getting here, right? So I'm just going to formulate from that a level that I think is appropriate, inshallah, and then go forward from that. So without any further ado, today we're covering only two chapters, chapter number 15 and chapter number 16. They're quite simple chapters, but they have a lot of profound meaning behind them. Okay, so inshallah, focus on not only the emphasis on how they are in their appearance, but also understand that there's a lot of profound meaning behind the usage of these particular concepts in the Arabic language. So if you look at chapter number 15, it talks about double emphasis. Okay. Officially in Nahab, we call these double emphasis, if you will, but it is possible for it to come in such a mode that it is much more than double emphasis. So, for example, if you look at Khutbah Shakshaki of Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahjul Balagha, right? The first sentence alone has approximately 5 tawqeeds in it, 5 emphases in it too. Before we get further into this, I want to ask you guys, what exactly is an emphasis?
Is it something you want to bring attention to?
Okay. Emphasis is something you want to bring attention to, okay? What is it that you're trying to bring? When you're saying that this um, statement has an emphasis in it, what are we trying to say? What is being highlighted, or what is being underlined or underscored? What is our attention being brought towards?
Is it the action like itself here because we see it's the verb, so it's the verb itself or the action?
Yeah, so in this particular case, we can go towards that particular point that is towards the verb, right? In the Arabic language, what is a verb just a verb, or is it a full sentence?
It can be a full sentence based on what we learned previously.
Accent, yes.
Yeah.
So they will indeed help, or he will indeed help. You can put a period after the help. You can put a full stop after the help, right? So emphasis in many cases is now looking at the concepts, the core root concepts of that sentence, and saying the relationship between them is what I'm emphasizing. Okay. So sometimes the emphasis, if it was a mubtada and khabar, and you're doing emphasis on mubtada and khabar, right? You're basically saying I'm emphasizing that there is a strong correlation, strong link between the mubtada and the khabar. Okay. In the case where there is a verb and an actor, a fi'l and a fa'il, right? And the emphasis comes and creates what? A strong emphasis, a strong highlighting, a strong relationship between the action and the actor. Okay. So
It's
when we say it in our lingo, we will say like this. So for example, he will indeed help. In fact, this is how we're saying it. He will indeed help. Okay. So you see how you see the emphasis there and the sound there's when I say he will indeed help, this doesn't relate emphasis in the English language as well as other places, more so in the English language, emphasis is something that is done through the vocals. So emphasis is done through the pronunciation of the verb or the word. Okay. So if I was to tell you, um, I'll ask you for help. That's one way of saying something that I can say, I'll ask you for help, right? So in the second way, I said the same thing, same words, but the enunciation of a particular word is what created emphasis. Okay? In some languages like Arabic, enunciation does give emphasis. That's one aspect. We have textual emphasis as well. Okay. So in the Arabic, in the English language, for example, you have the word like indeed or certainly, right? But in common lingo, if you notice, we don't use certainly and indeed that much. It's not like we go on certainly you thought this or indeed you thought that. This is very obscure. Typically, we relay the meaning behind certainly and indeed through a verbal connotation. Are you guys following what I'm saying? Are you guys seeing that too in the English language?
Yes.
Okay. So in the Arabic language, right, we have that. We have verbal emphasis, right? But more so, we have textual emphasis as well. And the more common one that we encounter as people who are looking at the Holy Quran and so on and so forth is textual emphasis, right? In the art of qira'ah, verbal emphasis comes as well. So, for example, if a person was denying something in the verse, they were non-believers, and the mode in which that verse is typically recited in qira'ah should relay the feeling that this person is having, right? If the person is trying to deny something, right? Um, that particular recitation will have that. Surah Baqarah, the first 20 verses, is talking about three types of people in society. And then when it's talking about the munafiqeen, if you notice how the sentence structure works there, right, it's very beautiful. It's like the sentence structure itself is really relaying some levels of emphasis regarding these individuals. Okay? These individuals and their traits, basically. Okay, let's go to the actual lesson for this. A little bit about meaning and a little bit about background about um, the role of emphasis in a language and then how it looks like in different languages. Now let's come back to Arabic. Let's come back to the lam and the noon tawkid. This is one type of emphasis. In the Arabic language, there is a plethora of manners in which you can show emphasis, right? And the emphasis you show itself sometimes has uh, other associative meanings there as well. So, for example, the lam comes when the mukhatib, when the person in front of you is somebody who doesn't believe what you're saying, and it's almost like you're trying to take an oath, right? It's almost at that level, this emphasis when the lam comes. But the noon comes in can come at a much lower level. So when the lam and the noon come, right, it's like really close to this level of oath taking almost, right? So you see the difference between when just the noon comes, when the lam and the noon comes, and so on and so forth. When the lam comes alone. So I'm trying to relate to you that the levels of emphasis changes. And the reason why in the Holy Quran the levels of emphasis in different things change, why? It can't be because the verse now the billah requires emphasis. No, we know everything in the Holy Quran is absolute. When Allah says A is B, I mean, it's absolutely the fact that A is B. It's not like sometimes the Holy Quran is telling us, now the truth, and other times it's not telling us the truth, right? That's not the case. In the Holy Quran, every statement is an absolute truth, right? Well, then this emphasis when it comes, what's going on? Why does some verses have lower emphasis, other verses have higher emphasis, other verses have higher still? And in some places, there's an oath being taken. What do you guys think?
I guess maybe Allah wants us to take a certain note of things in terms of priority of things, I would think.
Okay, he wants us to take note of priority in terms of what?
In terms of what we should be doing or not doing, or sometimes, almost taking an oath, like he wants us to believe, you know, in something that it's certain that it will happen. There's no question in terms of it occurring, um, that type of emphasis.
So in the beginning of the class, I said emphasis in jumla fi'liya and jumla ismiya is basically the highlighting or underscoring the relationship between the muqtada and the khabar or the fi'l and the fa'il, right? So emphasis typically means relays this meaning, and how strongly I highlight or underscore, right, determines the level of emphasis that I'm putting there. Sometimes I just underscore, sometimes I bold it and underscore, sometimes I italics, bold, underscore, and highlight it with a different color, right? The level of emphasis on basically the relationship between the fi'l and the fa'il, right, or the mubtada and the khabar changes. And exactly as you said, it's not because now whether the content and the context of the Quran is changing. No, it's more that the person who the Quran is addressing, the Quran is saying that, look, you have a perceived understanding regarding the relationship between the mubtada and the khabar. You have a perceived relationship regarding the actor and the action. And I'm trying to emphasize to you that this is the actual understanding, your perceived understanding, let go of it. Sometimes when you are at the stage where you have an alternate understanding there more ta'kid is brought, the lam and the nun is brought, and further ta'kid are brought, right? Such that you show that emphasis exists. For example, in the khutbah shakshakiyah, the first sentence, the masses were thinking that Imam Ali isn't going through a very tough time. Okay? And they thought that they were in the right and no dhulm had taken place on the Ahlul Bayt. Okay? By bringing all these ta'keeds there, explaining his situation, saying that it was as if I had a bone stuck in my throat. Neither I could take it out nor I could swallow it. This visualization of the difficulty that he was in, right, by the words that he used, as well as the emphases that are present in the statement that he was saying. Right? What it does is it destroys the previous notion that the audience might have had that everything was good to go. There was no strife, there was no difficulty, there was no problems. So that level of emphasis is to typically overrule a previous understanding that the audience might be having. But in the Holy Quran, because it's our nafs that being addressed, sometimes our nafs has certain understanding which the Holy Quran is pointing towards, guiding us, saying that, hey, this thing which you understood to have a correlation, either that correlation I'm emphasizing or I'm changing it up. Consider what I'm emphasizing. So now all the emphasis in the Holy Quran, well, they're really, really important now. For example, 9+ qasams are taken before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes and says, right, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, right? The one who's truly successful is the one who purifies their nafs. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا, right? The person who doesn't purify, fails in purification, causes corruption of their nafs, they've lost out, right? So typically speaking, our nafs sees um, success in material wealth, in material gain, in material status, and so on and so forth. And here to show that apparent understanding of success is incorrect, so many qasams are taking place, and what the qasam is taking place on top of also dictates how great the concept is. So, for example, if I was to tell you, let's say somebody was accused of stealing, right? And then they were to say that they're trying to convince an audience that we didn't steal. If they said, we swear on this tissue paper that we didn't steal, well, the tissue paper isn't worth enough for them to swear upon such that they can convince the audience, right? That's why typically when we swear upon things, we go towards things which are commonly known as very large things, right? This relays the importance of basically the emphasis we're trying to create, right? So this idea of swearing upon something, taking an oath and emphasis goes hand in hand again. Uh, Meaning-wise is what I want to convince. Let's go into the actual text of the thing. So the double emphasis, the lam and the nun tawkid, it's conjugated in this particular manner here, this chart on the right hand side, exactly like mudari, exactly like madi, exactly like fil amr that we had done previously. There's a chart that comes here and shows you exactly how uh, the um, um, the conjugation of lam and nun tawkid work when they come on top of a mudari, right? And then there's 5 points mentioned here, which helps you conjugate this chart easier. The first point is talking about singular form of the masculine and feminine third person, which is up here, these two, right? He will indeed help and she will indeed help. It's saying in these two particular areas, the noon is followed by a fatha, okay? Then it goes further and it says that in the second and third person masculine plural, right? So second and third person masculine plural. So that would be uh um that would be if, if you come over here, second person, so second person is right here, right? And third person is right here. So let's looking at this column, this row right here, and this row right here, right? And it's talking about the masculine plural. Plural this guy. So this guy right here and this guy right here. If you notice, the noon carries a dhamma before it. So in the other cases, in these two over here, there was a fatha. But in this particular case, the second person, third person, masculine, plural, the noon before it had a dhamma on it, right? Now, why these are the case and where it came from, this is how the Arabs would speak, right? The mode of pronunciation for the Arabs was this. The easiest for them was to create a dhamma, right? A dhamma sound was the easiest for them. And then basically, depending on certain reasoning, they would change from a dhamma to a fatha in some cases and to others in different cases. This is more high level in this book, coming from where exactly the fatha is coming from, where exactly the dhamma is coming from, and why. I'm just giving you a hint, basically. So this particular word and this particular word, if you look at it, before the noon, there's a dhamma. Right? In the dual forms, they all have this fatha and an alif and the noon kasra. And the fatha before the alif makes it a mad. Right? So it becomes la yansuranni. Right? So this mad sound is given to all dual forms. So all of these dual forms, the middle, they have this particular vocal situation happening. where you're basically saying لَيَنْصُرَانِ. The after the ra, the fatha on the ra, and the alif that follows after that with the noon tawqid creates a mad sound almost in the alif there. Right? The third and second feminine plural ends with nan. Right? So if you look at over here and look at over here, it ends with nan. There's a noon that's added there as well. Right? The letter preceding noon carries a kasra for second person feminine singular. Right? So second person feminine singular. لَتَنْصُرِنَّ. Right? So the ra, the letter before the noon has a kasra in it. Right? And this particular appearance doesn't occur anywhere else, just here. Okay. So these are the specifications of this particular conjugation. It is one of the more tougher, if not the toughest conjugation to keep in mind because there's 5 different changes to our typical scenario. In our typical scenario, very little is changing. We have a template given to us and we can follow through with that template without much rules happening in that particular template. But in this particular case, there's a lot going on, right? So so the way I like to recall it is this. So basically, if you have a visual understanding, these two have a special situation going on. This whole row down the middle has a special case going on, right? This word and this word have a special case going on. This word has a special case going on right here, right? And then we also have that the plural form, this word and this word, masculine word. This word, yeah, so this word and this word have a noon going on as well. And none we talked about as well. So except for basically 1 or 2, every single one of them has a specific and special case that they have to abide by and follow by. Okay. In terms of conjugation, this is one of the more tougher ones. To be able to conjugate this easily, you have to have a strong command in Mudari already, right? And then the 5 things that I just showed you, lay them out on a chart. Like actually, like for example, if I was doing this, I would color code this. I'd write here this particular point in my notes in a particular color, and I'll color code that particular portion of the chart in that. So visually, I have another way of looking at where the changes are occurring. Once you have that down, then it's very simple. Okay. Once you know which the where the appearance of the harakat before the noon end up becoming, then it becomes very simple. Okay. Let's look at some examples. So the verse comes is both of these words are from the same verse in the Holy Quran, verse number 195 of Surah Al Imran, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لا أكفرن عنهم سيئاتهم. Where's the emphasis?
لا أكفر sorry لا أكفرن.
Okay. So لا أكفرن, what is it saying? It's not لا, it's لا أكفرن. So لا أكفرن um uh is something completely different. Here the لا أكفرن, what is it telling us? Where is the emphasis between what and what?
It's the blotting. I'm looking at the translations, the blotting out and the from the evils.
So remember what I said, emphasis in jumla ismiya and jumla fi'liya work specifically. So this is first of all, is it jumla ismiya or fi'liya? The لا
Um,
أكفرن.
كفرن عنهم سيئاتهم. That's اسمية.
So أكفرن was a mudari, right? It was a fi'l.
Yeah. Mhm.
So because it was a fi'l, then this becomes jumla fi'liya. It's a jumla, it's a sentence, which basically the root forms of that sentence are verbs. We've covered this so far, right? In our Arabic career, that in Arabic, there are only 2 main types of sentences. Either there are jumla ismiya or they're jumla fi'liya. Either you're connecting a mubtada and a khabar, which would make it a jumla ismiya, right? Or you're talking about an action and an actor, then it will make it a jumla fi'liya. Everybody has heard that before, correct?
Yes.
Everybody else in the class? You guys hear me? Okay. So here, this is a jumla fi'liya. So then the emphasis would be what, how? So emphasis, so if I was to read this in English to show the emphasis, it would be like this. I shall blot out from them all evils. Right? So the emphasis on the actor and the action. Okay. So it's not that the emphasis sometimes we hear we'll be thinking, oh, it's from this idea of the evils being blotted out from them. Okay, that's true, that's happening. But that which is being emphasized is that Allah is saying He will do something, right? Right? Meaning that don't worry, I got you, I got this. Meaning that nobody else, when I am saying that I will do something, there's no power in the world that can stop that, right? So لَأُكَفِّرَنَّ عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ. Right? I shall blot out from them all evils. Do you guys see the emphasis there?
Yes.
Okay. So it's very important to see what is being emphasized, right? Because in terms of meaning, it's a very different meaning from, let's say, if I read this statement like this, I shall blot out from them all evils. There I did emphasis on from them, anhum. Okay. Anhum, because it comes before sayyi'atihim, right? It has a slight emphasis to it too, right? So Allah is saying that I will blot out from them all evils. But the emphasis, we're looking at the double emphasis, the one that really the ta'kid is done on here, would be the la'ukaffiranna, where Allah is saying, I shall do this action. So in this one statement here, there is actually two emphases taking place. One is between the actor and the action of the kafara. Kafara means to hide, right? لَأُكَفِّرَنَّ, to cover up, to hide, right? To blot out, as the translation says, right? لَأُكَفِّرَنَّ عَنْهُمْ, because anhum is brought before the sayyi'atihim, right? There's a slight emphasis taking place. لَأُكَفِّرَنَّ عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ. I shall hide from, I shall blot out from them all evils. Okay. Sayyi'atihim is what? Sayyi'ah is an evil or a mistake, right? Sayyi'atihim is their mistake, right? Right away, we know the translation that this book is showing us is not actually accurate. It's not saying that I shall blot out from them all evils, right? It's saying I shall blot out from them. What is it saying?
Is it mistakes?
Mistakes, but what, all mistakes or a different type of mistakes? Look at the Arabic. The Arabic says sayyi'atihim.
Their evils.
Their own
Their,
interest.
their evil. Okay. So not all evils, their evils. Okay. So for example, there's is a what's the difference between the two? One time when I say that I will blot out from them all evils, right, is basically me saying that giving an absolute statement, right, that this particular person is absolutely pure, absolutely purified, right? Because no evil has access to this person. Right? In this case, when I say their evils, that means that they already had evils that belonged to them, right? And then I took those away from them. They're not ma'sumin we're talking about right now, then apparently, right? So this difference in translation changes the meaning that the verse itself is holding. So لَأُكَفِّرَنَّ عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ, not as-sayyi'at. As-sayyi'at would be then all evils, right? And the Holy Quran could have come and said that, but it didn't. It said sayyi'atihim. Has a specific meaning that's being relayed. Okay, let's go to the next particular example. وَلَأُدْخِلَنَّهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ. What's being emphasized here? Sorry? Uh, could you repeat that one more time? I couldn't hear you. It was very, very quiet on my end.
لأنهم
لَنَّهُمْ.
لأنهم that is
لَنَّ.
it process.
So the word here is وَلَأُدْخِلَنَّ. وَلَأُدْخِلَنَّهُم is one word. So أُدْخِلَنَّهُم. Uh, so the actual word was دَخَلْنَاهُم, right? And then you're trying to say that you're doing it. So أُدْخِلَنَّهُم, the lam and the to, so um the lam and the nun tawkid comes up. The waw is separate. Waw is saying wa, but let's remove the waw. So it's la udkhilanna is the word, and the hum is being attached to that. So la udkhilanna hum jannatin. So
Wow, swearing here?
sorry.
Is this wow a swearing here or just in?
So this lam is not a swearing. This lam is doing
No,
a
the
double
wow.
emphasis.
The
This
wow.
lam is doing this wow. Okay. We have to go back and see the verse itself. When I looked at the full verse, it was a connector. It was not a swear. It was not saying, and I swear by. And if you look at over here, if you look at the meaning as well, I swear by, I will put them into heaven. Contextually doesn't make sense. Typically, after swearing, you have a noun taking place, like وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. For example, the shams is a noun, so it's a thing, right? Well, so we're here, لَأُدْخِلَنَّهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ is not a thing, it's an action. You could swear upon certain actions, it's slightly more rare. Okay. So وَلَأُدْخِلَنَّهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ. So over here, uh, what's being emphasized based on what I've said so far in class, that the emphasis in jumla fi'liya is between what and what?
Between the verb and the actor.
Okay. So if you were to read the English statement with emphasis, where would you place the emphasis?
لأدخلنهم, it's God.
To read the English the translation in English, read it with the emphasis in the correct place.
I shall certainly admit them to the gardens.
Absolutely. So the beauty here, the point of emphasis, God is saying that He Himself will admit them to the gardens. Okay. Okay. وَلَأُدْخِلَنَّهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ. Another point of meaning to add here, you see this jannatin that's come? It's nakara, right? It's not al-jannat or al-jannah, correct?
Yes.
By associating a nakara with something as profound as God saying, I will do it, what you're saying is these jannah is actually a very high level of jannah. This idea of high level comes from this idea that Allah is saying, I will enter them into gardens, right? Again, in the translation, if you come in the translation, right, it says the gardens, but if you look at the Arabic here, it's not supposed to have a the before it, correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
Translation are the byproduct and the effect of man, while the actual text is the byproduct and the effect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is very important to notice that there's this difference here. The translator has made mistakes in both of these examples. I encourage you to find similar mistakes in other examples that the book has in the translation. And almost every translation will not be able to carry out fully the meanings that are hidden in the Arabic language, because otherwise, just looking at tawqid, if they were to write those out, it won't be writing just the emphasis. That's the statement. They have to write down between the I and this, there's an emphasis. Between this and this, and there's an emphasis. And the anhum has been brought forth. It'll be like a paragraph for each sentence, right? Because that's not how translations work. You appreciate now why it's important to learn Arabic, right? So you can actually understand what that statement is saying. It's not just saying that one simple English letter, English sentence that's below it. There's a lot more going on, right? Oh, there's 20 minutes. Let's try to cover. So the noon is only attached to a mudari'. The noon with the tashdid on it is only attached to a mudari', right? And it's limiting it to the future tense as we look at the translations, saying I will, he will, she will, and so on and so forth. The la is also capable of being attached to a noun pronoun or a preposition. Okay? In these cases, you'll notice there's an inna that comes before it, right? And this inna with the lam gives double emphasis. So if you look at this, let's look at the verse that I copied from the Holy Quran first, Surah Alaq. It says, Kalla innal insana layatgha. Okay. Where is the emphasis done? Remember in the lam, look at this last portion. The emphasis is done on the word preceding the la. Okay, so what exactly is the emphasis here done on?
Insan?
So this is why I wanted to ask this question, because this particular portion of the text is saying that it's just done on the insan, but really in a statement, emphasis isn't just done on one word, it's done on a connection, really, right? So in this case, it's between insan and what that the emphasis is being placed upon.
Is it the Tughyan?
The Tughyan. We're saying indeed, certainly. And look in this statement, look how many emphases there are. Kalla, one level of emphasis. Inna comes, one level of emphasis. The lam on the yatqa, one level of emphasis. Jumla ismiya is used in al-insan yatqa. Jumla ismiya, insan is first, right? Another level of emphasis. There's so many emphases present here that indeed, certainly, it's mankind who transgresses. Okay. And the verse after it comes and explains why the emphasis there. The verse itself just shows you the existence of the emphasis itself. And the verse after comes and shows you the reason behind the emphasis and the amount of it. An ra'ahu istaghna. When he sees himself as sufficient, when he sees himself as the independent, when he sees himself as God, right, at its different stages. How independent he sees himself has a range to it from level 1 to level Fir'aun. Level Fir'aun saying, Ana Rabbukumul A'la, right? So, the capacity of man to see himself as ghani, as independent, has a range to it. At the level that he sees himself as independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? At that level, he is bound to transgress. Okay. And the level of transgression now is bound by the level of understanding of his independence. Trying to show you how, in terms of meaning, look, all this meaning is coming from the appearance of the Quran here, just the emphases and so on and so forth. Okay. It's not there in, if you look at the translation, the emphases and the connection between them, it's not displayed. It's not, and it can't be displayed. in a translation. Otherwise, they were writing a paragraph for each verse. Like some verses might have pages on it. Right? Let's look at some other examples. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Okay, what's the emphasis on? Can you guys hear me?
Is it الإنسان?
So emphasis is not on just one word, right? The emphasis
Yes,
on insan and what?
إنسان and خسر.
Ahsant. It's connecting the insan and the khusr. Okay. What's the unique idea about this particular emphasis? The lam has come on top of what exactly?
Okay.
A fee. Come on, something that is neither a noun nor is it a pronoun, right? This is unique here for the lam. So, innal insana lafi khusr. Okay. So let's look at meaning wise. Let's open this up a little bit to get an appreciation of what's going on. Fi khusr means what? That there's actually khusr means loss. Anything that's negativity, loss, um, um, not success, basically the opposite of success. Okay, but because it says fi khusr, right, means that the realm of khusr is really big, and in it, mankind is there. Right? There's some levels of khusran that man has a relationship to. It's not the case that man himself is khusran, right? It's not emphasizing and saying that man is loss itself. No, man is in loss, right? The loss is a separate entity to man, right? But the connection between man and khusran is an extremely strong connection, right? So because khusran and man are two entities and are not one, that means that they are separable. And the verse that follows after this tells us how to separate man from this other trait that is otherwise like a super magnet. It comes and attaches itself. There are two things. That's why you can separate them. But the relationship is like a super magnet with another. That if you were to do nothing, they'd come and attach. But now it requires something to pull them apart. Right? Innal insana lafi khusr. Super magnet between insan and khusr. Emphasis is doing that to you. And the verse after comes and says what? Surah Asr.
إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات
Ahsant.
وتواصوا بالحق والصبر.
Ahsant. That particular thing is the item that separates the magnet now. Otherwise, if you don't have that, if you don't have what's coming after the illa, right? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. If you don't have that, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. If these traits that are mentioned here are not in mankind, then the magnets do their job. Insan and khusr connect. Right? So you guys see the meaning that's being portrayed behind the emphasis? I really want you guys to appreciate that. I'm taking my time explaining because otherwise this word emphasis sometimes isn't understood in its profound nature. It adds a lot of meaning now to when you read the Holy Quran. Are you guys seeing that? If you're
Yes.
not able to see that, tell me now because I have to explain that further.
Just one question. Inna and la have to be found together to basically have this emphasis, correct?
I said in emphasis, there's ranges in it, right?
Okay.
Over here, for example, the lam came on something that is not mudari. It came on a preposition, right? It came on the fi, okay? And the inna here typically comes before the lam to add to the emphasis, okay? So the inna before the lam here in this example, and in this example, it's adding to the emphasis. It's like underlined with a bold, right? That they don't miss this. It's like that's why I said super magnets, right?
If the
So
if the lam was not in front of the fi but in front of the khusr, it would change the meaning.
yeah, it would change the meaning to say what? That it's in the khusr. Okay. إن الإنسان في لا khusr doesn't make sense really. It typically doesn't come in that form, right?
Mm.
But if it was able to come in that form, the emphasis would no longer be on insan, right? It'd be in the insan, which is in something.
Mm.
Because the fi in of itself doesn't have an independent meaning. It gains its meaning from those things that are around it. That's why I said that.
Mm.
Okay.
So the la can attach to itself, and I guess is that's what you're talking about, the degree or the severity of the emphasis if it attaches to a noun or a pronoun or a preposition. But my question is, do they have to be found in the same sentence for it to be an emphasis? That inna, regardless of where in the sequence of the sentence, but inna and la, they have to be there together or no?
Generally speaking, yes. But there are certain cases where they're not together. Let's say I want to give a slight level of emphasis, right? The slight level of emphasis I want to give, then I don't have to bring the inna, okay? But if I want to give a strong level of emphasis, a double emphasis, as your book says, then I bring the inna and the la. Double emphasis is a wrong way of putting it because double implies a very stagnant nature to it. That even though, as I just showed you, based on what comes as the emphasis, the inna or the lam or on the mudare and so on and so forth, right? The degree of the emphasis changes. Okay. So it could be a quadruple, octuple, I don't know. Emphasis. Okay. So إن الإنسان لفي خسر. So over here, inna was not needed that it must come, but generally speaking, it comes to add to the emphasis. Right? Generally speaking, when you're trying to emphasize something, and you want to say absolute, you want to make sure the person got it, you double emphasize it, or you add to the intensity of the emphasis. In this case, is by inna. If you look over here and over here. Let's look at the third example. إن الله لغني عن العالمين. What's the emphasis here?
لبنان عالمي
Sorry?
لبنان
So the emphasis is between the word that's before the lam,
الله
Allah. And what else?
عالمي
It's between that which comes after the lam.
عالمي
So this statement, if I was to take everything away, the root statement here was Allahu Ghaniyun. God is Ghani. He's free from all need. That was the only statement there. Okay. Then I came and I added some beautifications to that statement. Some other things around it that add to the complete meaning, that is Allah Ghaniyun. Allahu Ghaniyun. Right? First thing that happened is Allahu Ghaniyun an alameen. So first Allah is basically free from all need from all of his creatures, all of creation. Okay. And secondly, I wanted to show that Allah is Ghani. Indeed, He is absolutely free from all need. Okay. And I wanted to show that I put the inna and the lam. So inna Allah la ghaniyun.
what does the inna translation here could be surely or very
Inna, if you look at the English translation in all three of them, in this one up here, they translated as verily, but this is not correct because it's inna and the lam together create the emphasis. Even here, the inna and the lam together create an emphasis between Allah and the Ghani. Right? So simply using one word like surely or indeed it really doesn't relay the meaning, right? So that's why I'm trying to get you guys to appreciate that in terms of meaning, what's happening with double emphasis. Allah is becoming connected with the laghani. How are we doing for time? We got 6 minutes left. Let's see if we can finish this chapter at least. Oh, the chapter is done. Okay. Let's try to get to chapter number 16, see how far we can go, and then inshallah, if we're able to complete portions of it, that'd be ideal. So far, chapter number 15, everybody was comfortable with, or do they have any questions regarding it? Chapter 15, everybody was comfortable with, or they want me to go back to some portion on it? I don't want to rush us through.
Can we do like one or two more examples, please?
So if I was to look at your textbook and do examples from the textbook, can you guys see the textbook here? Can you guys see the textbook here on the screen sharing?
No.
Okay. Okay. If you can go to your textbook on page number 143 in the PDF that's been shared with you. Okay. You guys see it?
Yes.
Let's look at the third example given. It's chapter 30, verse 37. Everybody on the same page?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see if I could change that. So it says, Inna fi dhalika la'ayatin, right? What's the emphasis on here?
Yeah.
So where's the lam?
It's uh,
The li qawmin is a li, it's not a la. Li there means for. Li qawmin yu'minun. For the people who have iman. But where's the la in the statement?
الآيات الآيات.
But then what's the emphasis on exactly?
It's لآيات to the قوم. No?
So the li on the qawm is not the lam of emphasis. The li on the qawm is li, it's for the qawm, right? The lam of emphasis is on the ayat. It's la ayat. It's not al ayat. It's la ayati. You see that?
Yes.
Is it maybe whatever was mentioned in the previous verse?
Oh, it's ذلك. Is the connection with ذلك لآيات, whatever that ذلك represents?
I think so. I think Sayed just froze.
Okay.
Continue.
Sayed's having difficulty re-logging in. So I'm just asking him if he wants to conclude for tonight and we can pick up where we left off next week.
Sounds good.
We're just waiting for his response. Okay, so he's saying that he's going to send an audio of the example he was providing at the end, and then we'll leave it at that, and we'll reconvene next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.